Thanks for joining us here on KARE 11 News Now. I'm Alicia Lewis. Let's get to your headlines this morning. This morning, election officials getting to work certifying the results of the special election in Shoreview and in Roseville. The Associated Press calling Democrat David Gottfried as the winner with 70% of the vote for District 40B seat. He's expected to be sworn in on Monday. And taking a look at the balance of power in the House, Gottfried now ties Democrats and Republicans 67 to 67, ending a temporary Republican majority. From here, the two sides have worked out a power-sharing agreement. Republican Lisa DeMuth will remain Speaker of the House, and Democrats and Republicans will co-chair committees. DeMuth reacting, saying, quote, "We look forward to having the House back at full strength." Well, President Trump has imposed new higher taxes on some goods brought into the United States. They kicked in at midnight. The new tariffs follow another down day on Wall Street. And now the president has taken the first steps towards dismantling the Department of Education, slashing about half of the department's workforce. NBC's Alice Barr has the very latest from Washington.
Hi there. This is a big one. The Department of Education, the focus of the Trump administration's latest moves to slash the federal workforce, being celebrated by some who want local, not federal control over education, though parents of some of the most vulnerable students worry what could be lost. This morning, major cuts to the Department of Education, with the announcement nearly half its staff, roughly 1,300 career employees, will be out of a job. Education Secretary Linda McMahon called it eliminating bureaucratic bloat and a step toward President Trump's ultimate goal.
This directive to me clearly is to shut down the Department of Education.
That would require an act of Congress, though the president has talked repeatedly about leaving school policy to the states, setting off alarm among many parents like Lindsay Latham, who worries about losing federal oversight and grant funding for special education services children like her son Calvin rely on.
To make sure that their kid is being treated fairly and given the opportunity to learn like any other kid. If we go backwards, we are going to see such a regression in the most vulnerable population.
Secretary McMahon saying the department will still deliver on special education funding and other statutory programs. From nervous parents to rattled markets, Wall Street saw more losses Tuesday as another bout in the Trump trade war takes effect today. 25% tariffs on steel and aluminum imports from around the world. Some U.S. allies striking back. The European Union this morning announcing retaliatory tariffs on billions of dollars worth of goods imported into Europe, from boats to motorbikes and alcohol, beginning April 1st. Amid the uncertainty, President Trump rejecting growing concerns about a possible recession.
I don't see it at all. I think this country is going to boom.
Adamant his sweeping tariffs will strengthen the U.S. economy. The House has cleared a major hurdle in preventing a government shutdown at the end of this week, narrowly passing a 6-month funding bill that now heads to the Senate, with Democrats divided over wanting to push back against the Trump administration but not wanting to add to economic uncertainty with a shutdown. In Washington, I'm Alice Barr. Back to you.
Well, just in this morning, Secretary of State Marco Rubio commenting on the latest talks between the Ukraine, the U.S. and Russia, as the countries are trying to work out a deal to begin the end of the war between Russia and Ukraine.
We're going to bring it to them directly. We're going to say that Ukraine is prepared to stop all battlefield activity and begin the immediate process of negotiating an enduring end to the war. And we'll see what their response is. If their response is yes, then we know we've made real progress and there's a real chance of peace. If their response is no, it would be highly unfortunate and it would make their intentions clear.
And just this morning, U.S. arms deliveries to Ukraine started up again after Ukrainian officials signal they are open to a 30-day ceasefire backed by Washington. Richard Engel is in eastern Ukraine with more.
It has been a week of head-snapping changes here in Ukraine. First, the Ukrainians were cut off by President Trump. He cut off intelligence sharing with Ukraine, which is vital. Ukraine depends on American intelligence to help target Russian forces, but also to defend against incoming Russian attacks. And the U.S. cut off military aid to this country, which is also vital for the security of the Ukrainian territory and of the Ukrainian people. But then overnight, in a major diplomatic initiative, Ukraine accepted unilaterally for now a U.S. proposal to have a 30-day complete ceasefire on the condition that Russia also accepts the terms. Ukraine's President Zelensky came out publicly. He said, as soon as the Russians accept it, we will stop everything, all military offensives on the air, in the front lines, and in the Black Sea. What this does diplomatically is it changes the script. It was just a few days ago when President Zelensky was in the Oval Office being berated by Vice President Vance and President Trump, who accused him of not only being unappreciative of American help, but of not being serious about peace. He's clearly said that he's willing to now step up, engage in the ceasefire, stop the guns, and engage in long-term negotiations. We will see if Vladimir Putin does the same. So far, the Kremlin has said that Putin will not respond to this ceasefire initiative until Russia hears more from the Americans. President Trump is expected to speak with President Putin soon. Richard Engel, NBC News, Mykolaiv, Ukraine.
Well, back here at home, the Minneapolis Teachers Union gathering to protest the school board meeting last night. In that meeting, district leaders announcing their budget deficit has reached at least $75 million and cuts are likely on the way. Here's what we know right now.
I'm Jennifer Hoff. In about 2 weeks, the public will have a much clearer picture of what cuts Minneapolis schools will be making, as the district is facing at least a $75 million budget shortfall. At a school board meeting last night, the superintendent confirmed there will be more information at a finance committee meeting March 25th, while members of the teachers union protested outside that school board meeting. They're especially concerned about reductions to special education services, but the district confirmed allocations for that department are actually going up $3 million next year. The board will vote on the budget on June 10th.
Right now, the measles virus is gaining ground in the South. New numbers from the CDC show nearly 230 reported cases so far this year. Experts say falling vaccination rates are to blame for the surge, and a trend that's grown since the COVID pandemic.
When vaccine rates erode, and they have eroded to the point where many jurisdictions now have vaccine rates that are well less than 95%, which is what's required to prevent measles, we're starting to see measles come back.
That's Dr. Paul Offit. He says there was an increase in vaccine skepticism and a rejection of them after the COVID-19 vaccines. CDC data found vaccination coverage among kindergartners across the U.S. has dropped about 92% for measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine during the 23-24 school year. Well, happening today, the alleged mastermind behind the Feeding Our Future scandal will be back on the stand. Our Audrey Russo has the details from the federal courthouse.
We're entering week 5 of Amy Bock's trial. From the get-go, we expected that it would last about a month, but what was unanticipated was Amy Bock taking the stand herself. She first got on the stand Friday, answering questions from her attorney about Feeding Our Future structure. According to Bock, her executive director role was mostly office work, dealing with the state education department. She said there were 60 to 70 staff members and that other people kept track of the meal counts. This paints a very different picture from what prosecutors said earlier in the trial, calling her the gatekeeper of this $250 million scheme. By taking the stand, Bock opens herself up to cross-examination by the prosecution. Her defense attorney has said that he may call additional witnesses in the coming days. Back to you.
Audrey, thank you. Right now, the NTSB is calling for the FAA to restrict helicopters around Reagan National Airport in D.C. in the wake of January's mid-air collision that killed 67 people. The agency's report says that helicopters should be banned from a 4-mile stretch over the Potomac when flight patterns are using the runway where paths would cross. The current rules allow planes and helicopters to be as close as 75 feet apart, which officials say is just too close. Right now, there's a new limit for yellow perch on Lake Mille Lacs. From now on, it's dropping from 20 to 5. The DNR says the change is going to help maintain the population into the future. The new rule will be in place through the end of November. Well, stick with us. More news and weather is coming up on KARE 11 News Now.